Well, folks, we have some interesting news for you today. And yes, we're actually going to be talking a little bit about Sony and Microsoft towards the end because there's been some rumors and some stuff floating around about their next generation devices. And while we don't really cover them here, I think it's important for the state of the industry to pay attention, especially since one of those devices might actually be a direct competitor with the Nintendo Switch 2. So I do think it's just nice to see where the industry is heading, what the future is looking like. No, we're not going to start making a ton of Microsoft and PlayStation rumor videos over here. I just want to make sure that we're paying attention and aware of what's happening in this industry because, again, it can affect all of us. Now, that being said, we do have some big Nintendo news. We have some sales data as it pertains to Pokemon Legends EA, but not that 5.8 million number, rather sales data specific to Nintendo here in the United States from Matt Piscatella. We have some other stories as well. I think you guys are going to find very interesting dealing with games and all of that coming to Switch 2. All right. First up, though, we got to remind you, we are giving away 3 copies of Age of Imprisonment and 5 copies of Kirby Air Riders. We have 2 separate giveaway links down in the description or pinned comment. Let's go ahead and dive into this first piece of news coming from Matt Piscatella as it pertains to Pokemon Legends ZA. So, he says here over on Blue Sky, Pokemon Legends EA had a massive US launch at retail. Just talking about physical. Launch week physical unit and dollar sales of Pokemon Legends ZA were the biggest for a new physical video game launch since The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom back in May of 2023. That's right. It beat out big launches like Mario Party Jamboree and, more importantly, Mario Party Wonder. Pretty crazy. Obviously, the source there being the Circana Retail Tracking Service, which is where he works. And he says, there's some clarifications in here. Launch of any game, not just Nintendo, just clarifying since the previous game was also Nintendo. Still, they do dominate the physical market. And he says, for a new physical video game. If there were qualifiers around the statement, I would have included them. So, yeah, what he's saying here is there's no qualifier that this is just like the biggest launch for Nintendo. This is actually the biggest physical game launch period in the US since Tears of the Kingdom. That's across all video games, so Sony, Xbox, etc. Now, obviously, physical has had less and less presence, and everything seems to be going more digital, something we're going to be talking about here in a moment. However, it is just notable that, hey, Nintendo's still pushing that physical, and it's still doing really well. And you can go down here to see Paul Gale Network, friend of the channel, commenting as well. The console bundles with the game included in these numbers, and he says no. That's important to note that the console bundles are not included. So it has an amazing physical launch, and we already know there's going to be a crap load of digital. So again, 5.8 million, we already know it's sold worldwide for launch. Obviously, we don't have the exact US numbers, but the numbers are really good, and I suspect they're going to stay good for Legends EA all throughout the holiday season, especially as Nintendo is pushing that bundle. That bundle is going to do gangbusters. Now, we have to get to our next story, and this one deals with Final Fantasy VII Remake. So the director's been he's been talking a lot about game key cards and all of that, and look, we're not here to talk about that today. Yeah, he had another quote out there where he basically said, whether you like it or not, the industry's basically going all digital, and I'm not going to sit there and debate that point. I actually think that that's a pretty sound point, and, yeah, he's not wrong. But we're not here to talk about game key cards today. I just want to bring that up because that's what's getting quoted all over the place. But I thought this quote was really interesting. So we know how Nintendo's games are made, right? They have tight-knit teams. They, when they're done with one game, they move on to the next. The same is true at Game Freak, the Zelda team, the Mario team. Like, the teams kind of stay together. They do have some employees that float around, but for the most part, a lot of the chunk of the teams work together, and that enables to have a very good development environment. Well, it turns out that's not industry standard. In fact, the industry is very, very different, according to the director of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And he said he knows this from experience, and he got to do something that he feels is unique with the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. Final Fantasy VII Remake director says keeping the core dev team the same through all 3 remakes has helped them grow and evolve. So it goes down here. I think one particularly really good thing about working on these games, and that's quite rare, note, he's saying this is rare in the games industry, is the fact that we managed to keep pretty much the same team throughout all of the games. In the game industry, it's quite common that once a big project is done, a team will be split up, they'll be moved around, and then a lot of the time, your next project, you'll have to start again by rebuilding a new team. We haven't had to do this for the Remake project, definitely. Certainly, the key members, the core members of the team, will stay the same very much throughout all 3 games. And I think that really has helped us grow and evolve and become more refined and more capable as a team. Our experience really has grown as we work on each new game. And this interview was at Games Radar. Now, I find this to be interesting because as someone who covers Nintendo, we're all aware that Nintendo basically only operates this way, at least at their internal teams in Japan. I'm not saying that's how it works at Retro Studios and all that, but their internal teams in Japan very much are a tight-knit group. They have very low turnover. Sure, they shift people around to projects as needed, but when you look at all the big names, all the directors, you look at all the lead programmers, all the lead, designers, they stay on the same team and keep working together for years and years and years on just a lot of different projects. And because of that, it creates this close-knit environment for the game development that just keeps the same consistent high quality we've come to expect from Nintendo. It's kind of weird that this isn't actually normal in the game industry. Some of that has to do with the contract status and people bouncing around between companies, but also it's just the way the industry works. They keep moving people around, and then when you start a new project, you got to form a new team. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting, the dynamics and the differences between the companies when they develop games. I'm not saying one way is better than the other. Obviously, we've seen Nintendo have a lot of success doing it their way. We've seen other companies have a lot of success doing it in different ways as well. But he does feel in this particular case with this series, having the whole team together for pretty much the entirety of making all 3 games has been what he feels like is a huge benefit to the franchise and the games. And I tend to agree. I obviously have my biases towards the way Nintendo makes games. The very Nintendo approach to making video games. All right. We're not done, though, with game developers talking about things that have to do with Nintendo. We've got ex-Blizzard president coming out. Go tell Nintendo. This is really weird. I think this is a nice leader into our Microsoft and Sony conversations. As I come down here, it says Xbox has been making headlines recently with the news the Halo campaign Evolve will be making its way to PS5. And to really drive this point home, Xbox president Sarah Bond recently said that console exclusives is an antiquated concept, noting that the biggest games in the world are available everywhere. The statement comes as the brand continues to push this is an Xbox marketing. All right. Well, another user challenged that statement. Yabara, guy who used to work at Blizzard, doubled down and explained that Nintendo has thrived on console exclusivity, deeming the company's strategy of risk and return a big success. Nintendo has continually dominated with outstanding games. Sure, some platforms flopped, but they always took risk and came back very strong. It is the opposite of antiquated. It is risk and return. Xbox obviously recently reiterated its support for Switch 2. We talked about that before. Look, I think this is quite interesting because Nintendo does have a very different strategy. If you consider PlayStation's bringing their games, some of them to Xbox, all of them over to PC, seemingly. You see Xbox taking their stuff everywhere. Halo is yet to be on Switch 2, but some people suspect it might happen. The point is that everyone's kind of got a multi-platform strategy except for Nintendo. And this has led to obviously fans speculating, hey, can Mario come to PlayStation? Can this happen? And reality is the answer is no, because Nintendo has no reason to even consider it. The reason that you consider these strategies is because what you're currently doing isn't working. Let's just be real. Major shifts and change like that don't happen if you're successful doing what you're already doing. I personally don't care that much about console exclusivity. It's actually gotten Nintendo fans mad at me in the past. I like games to be everywhere that gamers are. If Mario's on PlayStation, I think that's nothing but good for gamers because more players get to play Mario. However, Nintendo doesn't have a business reason to do it. They are very successful, very profitable, and it's all driven by their IP. Their IP drives the hardware, their IP drives their movies, and everything they do as a business, even like Alarmo, an alarm clock, is driven by Nintendo IP. They're a very IP-focused company, and because of that, I just don't see them changing courses and putting their IP on areas and places where they don't really have control. Yeah, they partner with Universal to run their theme parks, but those theme parks can't exist without Nintendo's permission and Nintendo's approval of everything. So Nintendo still has a lot of finite control there. Same with the movies. The movies will just get canceled and get the plug pulled if Nintendo doesn't like it, right? So Nintendo maintains a lot of control of their IP, and when you start to put it on other people's platforms, you lose some of that control. As an example, you're now going through PlayStation's account system, you're going through the Xbox account system, or the Valve Steam store, right? Instead of your own stuff. And again, I think that ultimately doing that's actually better for consumers. It gives consumers options. But for a business like Nintendo, they very clearly are so good at what they do and so profitable at it, they don't really have to. If you think about the other ones, Xbox has been failing on multiple fronts. They had to go multi-platform. And then when you look at Sony, their own CEO came out and said the margins on their internally made games are too low. And one of the ways they can improve it is to put it on other platforms. When have you ever heard Nintendo come out and say the margins on their games are too low lately? Or ever? Even when Nintendo has a system that bombs like Wii U or 3DS, they bounce right back. So, yeah, I think Nintendo is in a very different position than everyone else where they do things more traditionally, but that's because it's working. And they've continued to deliver in a way that makes people continue to buy their games. We just saw that story, Legends EA. Nintendo still got this strong physical presence, dominated physical sales for the most, since Tears of the Kingdom, which was their game. Pretty crazy to think about. Nintendo's very traditional in this way, and it keeps working to their benefit. So yeah, I think there's some points here whether you like this guy or not, former head of Blizzard, because he does have a point that being hey, Sarah Bond has a point saying what she's saying, but she has to say what she say that's best for Xbox. And I do think multi-platform is the best strategy for them. That doesn't mean it's best for everyone. I do think for consumers it's best for everyone, but for Nintendo as a business, keeping this tightly controlled platform with these tightly controlled IP is working out very well for them, whether you like the decisions they make as a company or not. Now, next up, we have to go over a couple of stories here. I'm going to kind of combine these together. Microsoft and Sony, they have new platforms coming, and I just want to go over the latest reports on this stuff because, again, this is the future of the video game industry, and I think it's important as Nintendo fans that we are at least somewhat aware of what is going on in the industry. So we're going over here to Windows Central, one of the most reliable places for reporting on all things Microsoft, and Jez Corden, one of the most reliable journalists. And he says, Microsoft's ambitious new Xbox, your entire Xbox console library, the full power of Windows PC gaming, and no multiplayer paywall. So you're looking here at what's basically a PC for your TV. Interesting strategy. Xbox is dead. Long live Xbox, as the saying goes. No gaming platform in history has been declared dead as many times as Xbox. I don't know, Nintendo is doomed. Might be up there, but it still does. Microsoft itself earned itself plenty of condemnation, though, when you put the clickbaitery aside. Owing to a variety of rapid-fire strategy changes, large-scale layoffs, and disappointing price hikes, Microsoft hasn't exactly ingratiated itself to the remaining Xbox faithful as of late. Another wave of Xbox is doomed declarations dropped as Halo was finally announced for PlayStation last week, something we knew was happening for at least a year prior. But there are still reasons to remain optimistic for the future viability of the Xbox ecosystem, even without exclusive games. Microsoft's Xbox platform has more support from Japanese developers than ever. Xbox Play Anywhere is seemingly catching on with developers at an increasing pace, and the Xbox Ally X PC gaming handheld is sold out in many core markets. The Xbox platform is evolving to encompass PC gaming, cloud gaming, and traditional console gaming too. But that latter point has left fans wondering exactly what the next gen Xbox might even look like. Combined with public statements and information from our sources, the form the next Xbox will take is starting to take shape. And here's what you need to know, okay? What we know. The next gen Xbox from Microsoft will be a curated Windows gaming PC. All right, so Xbox CEO Phil Spencer has been teasing for years what the next gen will look like for Xbox, as people wondered exactly how this strategy might pan out. Last week, Phil Spencer said that people should look to the Xbox Ally for an idea of where Xbox is headed, and we spoke to our trusted sources over the weekend to learn a bit more about what that means. As many of us have come to expect, the next Xbox will indeed run a full-bore Windows with a TV-optimized console-style experience layered on top. Microsoft decided to sideline its own Xbox handheld plans and go to the market with the Xbox Ally in partnership with Asus this year to start gathering feedback on the experience that will essentially power the next wave of console hardware. I'm told that Microsoft still plans to make its own Xbox handheld eventually, too. Along the lines of this new plan, Xbox President Sarah Bond has teased a variety of first-party Xbox hardware made in partnership with AMD. But what will all this look like? Well, indeed, the Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X with its Xbox full-screen experience is essentially what the next Xbox will look like. It's not dissimilar to SteamOS interface and big picture mode, which allows you to exit out into a full Linux at will. Similarly, the Xbox full screen experience will allow you to exit out to a full Windows if you want and run competing stores like Steam and Epic Games Store, Microsoft's own Battle.net, and Riot Client, and indeed anything else you want. Indeed, you could run Adobe CC or Microsoft Office on the next Xbox if you so choose. Where the Xbox console will differ from a traditional Windows PC is it will feel like a traditional Xbox console out of the box. The onboarding experience will be similar to what you get today, and if you choose, you can remain fully inside the Xbox ecosystem, never touching Windows itself. Exiting out to Windows will be for those that want access to games traditionally not available on Xbox. This includes PlayStation games on Steam, mouse and keyboard, first games like League of Legends, or even classic games from Good Old Games and the like. You will be able to run PlayStation PC titles like God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, and Spider-Man on the next Xbox, purchased via Steam or Epic Games. You'll be able to play World of Warcraft on the next Xbox via Battle.net. You'll be able to install practically any game that runs on Windows, giving you access to decades upon decades of content all on a single device. Microsoft is working hard across the Xbox and Windows teams to optimize the platforms for TVs and controllers, bringing the original Windows in the living room vision from the OG Xbox to fruition after 25 years. Furthermore, thanks to the new silicon from AMD already approved all the way up to the CFO Amy Hood and CEO Satya Nadella, the new Xbox will also run all games currently available on the Series X and S library. This means all the OG Xbox back-compat games, all the Xbox 360 back-compat games, all the Xbox One back-compat games, and the current and future Xbox Series X and S games. These games will all run natively on the new Xbox and launch seamlessly via the Xbox Launcher's library. Like any new console generation, developers will likely continue supporting the Xbox Series X and S development environment for several years after the new Xbox drops in. Over time, more and more games will get the next-gen Xbox native versions too, targeting the specific configuration they're in. AI-powered technologies like auto super resolution and the next-gen frame generation will boost Xbox Series X and S games running on the new hardware. But developers will also have the option to target a new box directly with Xbox Play Anywhere versions and Xbox's smart delivery tech. So it's pretty interesting stuff here. They're going to talk about Game Pass and all that. You know, one question that's still to be worked around is Game Pass. You know, right now, PC gets all the games like day one on Game Pass, including Call of Duty. Now I'm sure the current plan for the next Xbox is to have no paywall for multiplayer. So they plan to make it just like a PC. You don't have to pay to play online. Massive shift for Microsoft here, since they're the ones that introduced that with the original Xbox. Because it doesn't make us, basically the device would be uncompetitive if they did that. Because you could just build a PC or buy a mini PC and put it under your TV, right? Like, if you're going to have a console-style PC for your TV, it can't have the limitations of console. It's got to be open up to the way PC works. That includes free multiplayer. What I expect we can see is PC Game Pass being rebranded somehow, is a guess they have there. What about the price? It's going to be higher than usual price. Obviously, we don't know anything about that. We can talk about the specs and everything, but essentially Microsoft is putting a PC in your living room. That's their future strategy. Again, Microsoft is also not a console leader right now, so maybe you're more interested in what a console leader is doing in PlayStation. Well, we have some stuff on that as well, because the PlayStation 6 handheld specs have leaked. That's right, they're planning a home console and a handheld. Figure we'll focus on the handheld today because that's more relevant to directly competing with Switch 2, as you can even see with the image. So the PC handheld specs have reportedly leaked. It's much more powerful than the Switch 2. According to the leak, the next-gen PlayStation 6 console even surpasses the ROG Ally X. All right. So, yeah, the rumors, they started back in April. They were leaked AMD in documents, and then Moore's Law is dead, revealed how powerful it is. So a lot of this comes from Moore's Law is dead, whether you believe him or not. That's up to you. He's a fellow YouTuber. The PlayStation 6 handheld has a CPU that is much faster than the Switch 2. It also has the same number of compute units as the Xbox ROG Ally X, but with a widely better RDNA architecture. It also has a 50% wider bus memory with faster RAM. I found with my quick math, the PlayStation 6 handheld in docked mode should be nearly 3 times faster than the Switch 2. Interestingly, Moore's Law is dead said the PlayStation 6 handheld still has a massive performance gain over the Switch 2, even in portable. If we look at the scratch math in handheld mode, I would still suggest the PlayStation 6 will almost be twice as fast as the Switch 2 in docked mode. And he's talking about in handheld mode here, it being twice as fast. Sony has a major advantage in the PlayStation 6 portable, as it will use AMD FSR 4 or 5. The Switch 2 currently uses DLSS, which has recently had issues. This is where things get a little weird, because DLSS is widely known to be better and more efficient than FSR, but that's neither here nor there. It's obviously, some biased takes that get involved. Moore's Law is dead also shared the most recent leaked specs for the PlayStation 6. You're seeing 4 Zen C6C. It's basically 6 CPUs, 4 megabytes of L3 cache, 192-bit LPDDR5X, 85333 memory controller with support for 48 gigabytes of RAM, 16 CU, yada, yada, yada. Basically, a really, really powerful device. Now, my thing is, that's all fine. One, battery life. People already chastise Switch 2 for its battery life. I can't imagine this has a better battery life than Switch 2. None of the other PC handhelds really have significantly better battery life outside of, well, okay, let me roll that back. They do have significantly better battery life, usually at the cost of the thing weighing a lot more and being much chunkier. If you're, looking at it playing AAA games, oftentimes the battery life lasts about the same. But when you're playing something like Silksong, you can get an extra 2-3 hours sometimes on your PC handhelds. Again, they do have bigger battery capacities. So I'm very curious how this is going to work out. Obviously, we know the cheapest ROG Ally is at $600, a full $150 higher than Switch 2. There probably is going to be 0 exclusive games because it's going to share its library with PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 6. That's probably to its benefit, but maybe to its detriment. We don't really know. Last time Sony was in this space was obviously with the PS Vita. Didn't go well for them. The PSP, while it got really popular in sales, it didn't sell a ton of software. It was a big pirate machine. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's it, though. Let me know your thoughts on what the competition is doing down below. I'll probably get further thoughts on this stuff tonight on our live stream. Otherwise, I got to get the hell out of here. I got stuff I got to go do, and I got to get this video out to all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.